After a frenetic opening round of the championship at Imola, the HQ Racing eSports League makes its way into the Styrian Mountains and to the Red Bull Ring for round 2 of the championship. Hi folks, Arjuna Kankipati, not alone this week and joined in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth by Kevin Ellis Jr., who brings plenty of World Championship experience with him. More than I can say about myself. Kevin, excited to see our 11 competitors get underway in the F4 car here at the Red Bull Ring. Traditionally, something we'd be talking about slipstream being the major factor here today.
Yeah, absolutely. This track has always been one that is targeted by many for overtaking and slipstream trains, and especially in the F4 with just how that car works, there's always been a lot of slipstream. And that car specifically, so yeah, it could be interesting to see how the racing pans out, though it is a keynote that the track is at altitude here, so the slipstream effect might not be as intense as we're expecting.
And as we work our way through the season, next round, Hungaroring, slipstream will be important, even though it's tight and twisty, as we make our way to Watkins, Glen, the final round, just a pair of races stateside. Quick look at the championship points where Josh Connell has sprung to the early championship lead, but the driver's already gritting up for our first race of the night. Remember, 2 races tonight. The heat race will see Josh Connell, our championship leader, lead us to green. Just 17 thousandths though split him from Jordan Heppel. Nick Bruno, Connor Stroh split row 2 with Joshua Freund and Anthony Giovanone 5th and 6th positions. Anthony Arroyo, John Willis, Remy Podas, Jackson Podas, and Romario Jackson, the 11 cars. Not too much separation at the front of the field. We'll see if that slipstream holds them tight. Although we do have a full formation lap behind our Porsche safety car before we'll get the racing underway. And it will be a 20-minute opening race before the slightly longer feature race later on tonight. Make that 30 minutes on the clock. And so they're all fighting for their share of the championship prize, a chance to head to HQ Racing Peekskill, an indoor karting facility, a multi-level karting facility with coaching from Bryce Rodriguez, kind of mirroring some of the things that they get here in the virtual championship as well, and 4 on-track sessions. And 4 on-track sessions, Kevin, sends plenty of time to dial in your own driving.
Yeah, it is, absolutely, yeah. 4 sessions, normally you get to use the first couple just to get your eye in, and then the last 2 you can really start to fine-tune how things are going. But one thing I'm interested to see actually is how close it is at the front of the grid. That front row only separated by 17 thousandths. It does, yeah, let's hope that lines us up to have an exciting race here. We're not going to see a runaway victory.
Track limits at this particular track can be a bit of a pressure situation, Kevin, and especially in these cars when you're trying to maximize the track on occasion, swing your momentum through. Our drivers on the front row split by 17 thousandths. It does indicate that we hopefully are in for a pretty good race.
Yeah, this has always been a track that is, you're always right on the limit of grip here. You can't take any corner easy as such, as you just lose so much time. So yeah, specifically the middle sector, the double left in the middle sector, it's easy to pick up an off track there, and of course the last corner as well. You really want to open it up on the entry. So obviously the second last corner you want to run it quite wide, and out the last corner you've really got to carry that momentum through the downhill braking zone and through throttle pickup to really, yeah, keep the car flowing, keep momentum, especially in these F4 cars where there's not a huge amount of power. There's even more incentive to really push those corners that little bit harder. So yeah, we could easily see track limits come into play near the end of the race.
And the incident limit is what I was thinking about. We saw a couple of drivers caught out by that in the 30-minute feature race. Already some gravel kicked up by the drivers as they sweep through the middle sector. Elevation, we have about 65 meters of total elevation change here, but you mentioned these lower powered open wheel machines. Elevation not going to be too much of a factor as they sweep through some of the undulation like it might be in some of the higher power cars.
Yeah, it's not going to affect the power too much. It's more going to be the under braking that you're really going to notice that up into T3 into the hairpin. It's a steeper uphill than it actually looks. So it's very easy to actually underdrive the entry to that hairpin. So you could potentially see an accident on the first lap, someone just not quite accounting for the extra gradient under braking.
I love that climb to turn 3. Seeing plenty of moves, opportunity to run your opponent out wide. And no doubt on the opening lap of this race, estimated 13 laps in our 20-minute window for the heat race, likely to be the hot button topic. All 11 of our machines resplendent in the orange of the HQ Racing livery. A couple of different wheel colors for our field as the concertina plays out as we begin the climb up to turn 1 here at the Red Bull Ring. Heat 1 underway in the HQ Racing Esports League. Defensive from Josh Connell on the inside. It will open him up to the sweep around the outside from the Canadian Jordan Heppel as they run their way now up towards turn 3. 2x2 and then single file behind them. Still now watching for your leaders to see who's going to be most assertive. Connell on the inside has held that momentum. Meanwhile, further behind is Connor Stroh going offensive, locking up the right front. And in fact, Nick Bruno on the inside. Stroh rolls the momentum the long way around and holds on. All 11, though, descend down the hill for the first time.
Turn 1 was really interesting there, actually. Josh Connell really had to go defensive on the entry just to not leave any gaps open. And in turn, yeah, it really compromised his exit. You could see how good an exit Jordan Heppel got compared to Josh, but he managed to hang on there and maintain the lead, which was, yeah, it was good to see.
Not sure where Jordan's lost so much time, though, because it was a decent exit up through turn 3, and now drops behind Connor Stroh, who's got the afterburner set to maximum, but now 1.2 seconds adrift from your race leader. Slightly wide, though, as they head out through Worth in toward the final 2 right-handers as you drop the final bits of elevation on the lap. Draft not totally broken, though, and so these drivers have got to get the message sent between them. Don't fight too much. Try and close up to the race leader. 18 minutes to go. Freund sends it up the inside. Giovanone rolls the momentum as we're 3 wide for a moment.
Yeah, that's not a good place to be for Nick Bruno on the inside. 3 wide into turn 1. It's very much a one-car only corner there. Only one car can really get through there comfortably, but they've done well to avoid any accidents. But yeah, as you mentioned, these two in second and third corner and Jordan, they really need to work together here to not let Josh just drive away. They need, if they can bump draft or even swap draft or anything, they need to try and maximise that. Otherwise, Josh is just going to be able to creep that gap out and yeah, secure the win for himself early on.
You can almost make the same argument now for fourth on back, who have lost 1.6 seconds, and that is technically out of the strongest of the drafts. And so now Giovanone in the 5, the driver with the task of closing up the gap. 1 second between the top 2, so Connor Stroh given the chance to close there. A little bit of a wiggle from Giovanone as we drop down, and so Nick Bruno back now alongside of Joshua Freund. Remy Podis thinks 3, better of 3 wide. Oh, big send there from Freund. Bruno's going to try and cut back underneath. Some great racing here, but still 17 minutes left to go.
That was an absolutely perfect block move there. He absolutely lobbed it in on the entry and just completely cut off any kind of momentum on the outside on the exit. So yeah, it's a scary corner to go as we see Jordan Heppel going round the outside into the second to last corner. That's brave if it is.
Yeah, it's not working together like you might at Indy to swap draft, Kevin, but maybe that's what these two need to do now. Just try and tandem slingshot out of turn 1, swap on the run to turn 3. And Josh Connell, fastest lap of the race, 2/10 quicker than the 2 trying to chase him down, still fighting up to turn 1.
Yeah, this is just absolutely gifted Josh the win there. I mean, what these guys really should have been doing is taking it in turns to lead with just having a quick look at the track temp being 39 degrees and climbing. These tyres will start to degrade fairly quickly, more sort of thermal degradation as opposed to actual wear. So if they could have done a couple laps out front each and then swap drafted, it would have kept the tyres cooler, and of course the slipstream would have gradually pulled them closer. But yeah, I think they've got other ideas, so I think Josh is looking pretty good early on.
Remember, we do invert the top 10 for the feature race, so a little bit of chaos down to turn 1 and up to turn 3, first time by in about 30 minutes time. Joshua Freund on the inside. Oh, big spin from Nick Bruno, digs the left sides into the gravel, loses traction, although fortunately seemingly minimises the damage and spins the car back around.
Yeah, what a shame for Nick. That's so easy to do in that corner. You've really got to carry the momentum down the hill. It's a downhill braking zone. The car constantly feels like it's getting away from you under braking, and by the time you get to the exit, it really tightens up. Yeah, that's such an easy thing to do, and it's super unfortunate for Nick there. He just, as you say, dipped the left-hand side tyres into the gravel there, and that's all it took for him to go round.
What I'm being reminded, though, as we watch the final couple of corners, is there's a lot of AstroTurf, and so it could have just been a little bit over-eager, and find out maybe from this perspective, driver's eye view down the hill. Yeah, I don't think he actually touches the gravel. He just slightly unbalances the car, left rear on that curbing, and well, quickly around it goes. 3.5 seconds at the front. Josh Connell, I think you are correct, gifted the heat victory. Lots of work for him to do to find his way to the front in the main event. Fight for second, though, is well and truly on, and Giovannone has to get on the binders after an initial great exit off the corner.
Yeah, that Constantino effect was really exaggerated there, just as they came up over the crest, and yeah, as you say, Josh is looking pretty up front, so I think it's going to be a good scrap between these three, and of course Joshua Freund isn't far behind either, so we could see this end up being a 4-horse race for P2, which will be interesting. We'll need to see how these tyres are going to degrade and how these guys are going to manage the off tracks and everything.
Replay of Romario Jackson, who, in trying to avoid the big anti-cut curb on the left, which in these very small F4 machines is uncomfortable, and unfortunately loses the car. Jackson Poders loses it earlier than Nick Bruno does, but almost then gets clipped by, that would be John Willers, who almost arrives on the scene of his own incident, fortunately able to avoid, much like Franco Colapinto this weekend. Jordan Heppel bounces wide, that loses so much momentum, and now Giovannone placed in that uncomfortable position on the inside as we climb up to turn 1, 3 wide. Connor Stroh will hold the middle, hold the position. Meanwhile, it will be a 4-way fight. Joshua Freund up the inside, straight through to third.
This is going to be really important for Connor. He's going to have to manipulate the draft on the way into the corner to pull the car that has got the least momentum, so that he doesn't do what he's done here and pull Joshua Freund up the inside. He's gone defensive though, so he'll be able to hold on to the position for now. But yeah, if you've ever got 2 or 3 wide behind you, you want to try and give the slipstream to the car with the least momentum. Try and keep them side by side for as long as possible. It gives you the best chance of then still scrapping it out a couple corners later and you've been able to break that slipstream.
Sounds like what I've been doing in iRacing Arcade. Up the inside, Joshua Freund now to second, although has to clear Connor Stroh before they get back to the double left-handers, because there is a big opportunity to send it back up the inside, and that's what the 11 thought about doing. Sweeping the momentum, though, holding on to the spot with single file once again, and now 5.8 seconds off the race leader. I can only imagine what the lap time's going to show us, especially with the fight continuing into the penultimate corner. Freund goes defensive, and what this may do is make a 4-car fight a 6-car fight, because Anthony Arroyo and Remy Poders are only a couple more seconds down the road.
It's not going to be long until they're here if these guys carry on the way they're going. Round the outside, it's so interesting to see how much these guys are actually struggling with the cars bottoming out on the curb. You can see the floor catching and the cars bouncing and skating along the exit of the corner. It's really, really interesting to see what these guys are battling here. As you see Remy looking at the outside of T1, that's brave. Oh, it's not gone well.
No, Anthony Arroyo almost loses it on the nose. Meanwhile, Connor Stroh dropped to the tail end, so I'm not sure if he maybe got a slow down at turn 1, which is so easy to do as well. It's going to compromise these two in their hopes of closing in on that fight for what is still, let's not forget, a podium position, and maybe that's where Connor can be the bridge and relative no man's land right now. Look at him there, that number 11, Kevin. He's got some hard work to do to make the gap in front disappear. 11 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, it's just one of the worst situations you can find yourself in at a circuit like this. I always see a spinner as that Anthony Arroyo's gone round, I think. His opportunity for a podium has just slipped away there.
So that's now 3 incidents down at that point on the track. I was talking about the elevation maybe not being so much of a factor for these machines, but clearly that drop here, let's get the onboard look at turn 4. Oh, he's lost it early actually. Both of them had a slight sideways moment going.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what the wind direction is. It looks to me there that was a really, really early spin. It's very early in the corner there, and yeah, was it only a 3 mile per hour wind? It's such an unusual point in the corner to lose it. It's not that heavy enough braking zone to where you're going to lock the rears, so it just looks as if these guys are just struggling a little bit with the balances. I think we've had a spinner in T1 there. There's someone moving slowly on the inside.
I think that's Romario Jackson potentially, who's 1 lap down. Yep, stay out of the way. To answer your question, Kevin, wind direction, I think from north to south is the way that it's blowing. So if I'm understanding correctly, that would be a tailwind as they're dropping down out of turn 4.
Yeah, that would explain a lot then if it is a tailwind. The effect that the wind has on the cars is pretty drastic. Even at like low wind speeds like we have here, like 3 miles per hour, you can just see on the entry every single car just looks a little bit nervous, and they're not locking rear tyres or anything like that. It's just the aero balance is shifting so far forward as they're starting to come off the brake and turn in that it's causing these guys a few issues. As that's a bit wide for Anthony Giovinone, and you can see the cars are bottoming out on the curb as well. You can see the floor just keeps on catching it, and it's a really uncomfortable feeling as a driver where you feel like you're in control, and as you track out, all of a sudden the steering wheel does nothing for a couple of seconds. It's this can't be comfortable for these guys with how much curb you have to use around here as well. They're going to be feeling a little bit nervous behind the wheel, I've got to imagine.
All on a fixed setup, so limited tools to dial in. I think in the F4 you have brake bias, and that will be absolutely it. Connor Strode digs the left tires into the grass. He's pushing hard, but now 2 seconds adrift. Well and truly out of drafting range as Nick Bruno, Remy Podas. I'll have a squabble up to turn 1 as they climb the hill for the 8th time in this race. 8 minutes and a little bit left on the clock. Nick Bruno can now be compromised as they run up into the next braking zone, and only a handful of heavy braking zones on this lap. You can see on the left, by the way, Romario Jackson off tracks, couple of spins and car contact. He's hit the 15 incident point limit, so clearly something that when we get to the feature race, Kevin, is something everyone's going to be thinking about.
Yeah, if you hit an incident limit in the heat race, then it doesn't stand you in good stead for the feature race. So yeah, Romario Jackson's got to sit in pit lane, have a little think about what he's just done, and probably have a word with the stewards, I imagine, and try and straighten himself out for the feature race. It's going to be it's going to be tricky to manage things.
Always easy when the iRacing virtual stewards control our track limits. Bruno running slightly defensive, not quite on the outside of the track into the middle sector, is now 7.5 minutes left to go. It's back down to 4.2 at the front, so Josh Connell having the opportunity, the liberty to manage the pace, not have to run to 100% every single lap, especially knowing that the 3-car fight behind him liable to kick off as one of these drivers will miss out on a podium. Jordan Heppel uses the draft, fastest lap of the race, there's still 2 cars in front of him.
It's interesting to look at the lap times here. They caught him by about a second, not in the last lap, but the lap before. So, yeah, I mean, the racer in me is saying that it's still possible to catch him if they can work together. And Josh is still taking it easy. Is up the inside. Goes Jordan Heppel. That's a tidy move. Oh, big bit of oversteers. It came over the crest there. It's so easy to do. A little bit of inside rear wheel spin just as you come up over the top of the crest on the exit. So they're still going to be side by side as we head down into the infamous turn 4.
Say infamous sketchy is another way of describing it. The wind's moving around as well. That's the other thing that will slightly concern them. Shifting towards a more northeasterly wind direction. Jordan Heppel saw an opportunity. Squeeze then as they slingshot their way through. This is releasing Joshua Freund potentially to hunt down the race leader, but maybe just to sit in second by himself for the remaining 6 minutes left, which should end up being probably 4 laps left to go. Into the penultimate corner, we're on board with the Canadian Jordan Heppel. Long way around. Left himself some work to do last week after spinning by himself. Has avoided that fate so far. Tight fight with Giovinone back up to turn 1. These two are well and truly about to lose the draft of those in front.
Yeah, they need to be careful because Connor Stroh's not a mile away either. So if they mess her, That's a mistake there from Jordan Heppel. I think he got a little bit loose at turning there. I just looked away for a second to check the live time and saw him off the circuit. But yeah, Connor Stroh is still within reach of these guys. Keep on cracking on at the rate they were going at. But I think that will probably die down now after that mistake from Jordan.
The ambition didn't meet the adhesion, I think, there. Just over committed in through turn 1, right on board. Oh, yeah, the rears have gone so early through the corner. It does look as though maybe slight tad of rear locking potentially, which is possible in these cars.
Yeah, I mean, I think technically the aero balance is quite far forward in these cars. They're always very responsive and on the nose. So if you do carry a bit too much speed on the entry, then the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to lose the back end. But yeah, it is easy to do, especially when you're trying to make an overtake. It's easy to miss your brake point when you're offline. You're not used to looking from that part of the circuit. You know, when these guys are practicing, they're on the traditional racing line, so their eyes automatically focus on the braking point. But one of the hardest things as a driver is when you're trying to make an overtake and you're sitting in the middle of the track and your brake marker all of a sudden isn't right in front of you or going right past the car. You have to actively look for it. So I think that's just what's happened there with Jordan, is he's trying to make that move on the inside, and it's just blindsided it a little bit with the brake point.
The other thing that sometimes I feel happens in fixed setup racing is you try and move the brake bias more and more rearwards, just trying to make the car rotate a little bit more. In most cases, fixed setups need a bit more rotation, and sometimes in the heat of a race you find yourself moving it just that little bit too far back. He is closing back up to Giovinone, though, with what will be 2 laps left to go at the line, so don't count him out. Also, Joshua Freund now within 3.4 seconds of our race leader, so our inverted top 10 for the main event. It's going to be quite interesting because with how things have settled out right now, Joshua Freund is going to have to work his way back up through the field. Remember, lots of fighting already for him today.
Yeah, he's definitely been in the wars in this first heat, but yeah, I've been watching his pace over the last few laps just since he's gotten clear of the 2 behind, and I think he's got the pace over Josh Connell. Obviously, we don't really know how much Josh Connell is managing things. It's potentially just knocking a bunch of lap time off just to make sure he's not going to get near that incident limit that we were talking about earlier. But yeah, the reverse is going to be interesting. I reckon, yeah, if Joshua can stay ahead of Josh, then it could be an interesting battle for the win.
We also have absolutely no idea where they sit incident point-wise. Could just be the case that Josh Freund has been invalidating lap times left, right, and center. Was 0.2 quicker last time, though, than our race leader. Won't get close enough, it would seem, with the time remaining in this first heat. We'll have a brief warm-up session before the second race of the night, the 30-minute main event, where, as mentioned, we invert the top 10. You can see that Jordan Heppel on the last lap actually gained a 10th. It's a little bit confusing how that graphic's laid out. Lost 1.1 seconds, so Anthony Giovinone gained 1.1 seconds on lap 10. 2 very closely matched drivers with a lap and a half left to go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it ends. It is going to be the closest battle on track right now, is Anthony and Jordan. But yeah, around a second between them, and I think there's been a small mistake from Jordan because he's lost 2 or 3 tenths there in this middle sector. I'm assuming he's had a bit of an issue in turn 4 again with the downhill braking, but it's interesting just to watch the onboard. You can see how on the nose these cars are. Very little steering input. As soon as he comes off the brake, you can see the car sort of positions itself almost. It's almost like it turns itself. You don't really feel like you have to do an awful lot with these little low-powered, high downforce cars. Bit wide through the second to last corner, as that was a bit of a strange line through the last corner for Giovinone. I think that's going to bring Jordan right back into the slipstream here in sector 1.
Is this going to be a chance to attack in the final sector? It's 7 tenths, make that 5 tenths as they hit the apex of turn 1, climb back up to turn 3 once again. 3 tenths to the good was the Canadian last time by in that number 4 machine. Back up into what in many ways is the best passing opportunity, the heaviest of the braking zones. And he gets close within a car length. And with the car pulling to one side, that's Romario Jackson going another lap down, just staying out of the way. Only a couple more places for Heppel to make this work.
It's interesting just to see how much time he's gaining in the first sector alone. That was 3/10 that Jordan Heppel pulled on Giovanoni, and the middle sector will be much the same, although there's a few extra corners to negotiate. He's looking to the outside for turn number 5. That's brave, very brave.
Longer distance in these lower powered cars as well, not necessarily going to work. No real marvels to talk of as they will slingshot down to the penultimate corner. Ducking and weaving. Oh, Giovanoni very much aware that if he's too tight into the penultimate corner, it gives Heppel the chance to rip around the outside. Josh Connell is going to win the heat race here in the HQ Racing Esports League. Behind him, Josh Freund does a great job to grab second, while Giovanoni just fends off the challenge of Jordan Heppel, who at least will grab the fastest lap in the opening race of the night.
Yeah, congrats to Josh Connell. He done, oh wow, that's a big mistake into the last corner there for Anthony Arroyo. He's just had a lapse in concentration, either that or he's trying to start one position better for the final race, because he's managed that. He's going to come across the line in P8. But yeah, great drive there from Josh Connell. He broke the draft early, controlled things, and yeah, that was good defense there from Giovanoni as well.
Have you ever thought about losing positions in a PES sprint race to finish, to start in a better spot for a feature race, Kevin?
I don't think I ever intentionally lost positions, but I intentionally didn't go for overtakes.
That's the way racing sometimes goes. The strategic element of invert racing. 13 laps later, Josh Connell leads every single one of them in front of Joshua Freund, with Anthony Giovanoni, Jordan Heppel, and Connor Stroh the top 5, and then a bit of separation back to Nick Bruno, Remy Podis, Anthony Arroyo, John Willis, and Jackson Podis. All of them having their own little issues in the opening couple of laps. Romario Jackson at least persevering. Unfortunately, though, he misses out on the inverted top 10, and will start down in 11th, while everybody else will find themselves flipped in order. Let's see if we can catch up with our race winner, Josh Connell, who led every single lap of the first race of the night. Josh, must be feeling pretty good about that one.
I do feel good, but I'm also in a little bit of pain, actually. From lap 4 on, I was dealing with a muscle spasm in my right foot.
Too much full throttle time, huh?
Yeah, it was giving me a bunch of issues, but I'm glad everybody was fighting. It gave me a little bit of a gap.
Well, that explains. We were wondering if you were just managing the pace, but now you've got the invert, 30 minutes in this second race of the night. What are you expecting?
It should be interesting. I heard it was getting pretty bunched up. A lot of 3 wides going on, so I think it'll be interesting starting from 10th. But I think it'll be good racing. I think it'll be good. I'm pretty confident. I'm familiar with this track. I'm confident in this track, so I'm excited.
Well, best of luck in the second race of the night, the main event.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Let's catch up, if we can, with second place Joshua Freund. He's standing by with Kevin Ellis Jr.
Yeah, Joshua, that looked like a pretty comfortable race for you at the end there, but definitely no shortage of wheel-to-wheel action for you there.
Yeah, plenty of racing there. Got myself into a couple of 3-wide situations, so that was interesting, but everyone did a good job of giving each other space, so I'm happy about that.
So how's the racing sort of panning out? We were talking just before the start of the race about obviously the F4 has traditionally got quite a lot of slipstream, but we are at altitude here. So how is it on track for you with your experience from the heat race, and what do you expect for the feature?
I definitely have to be careful following other cars. You do have a bit of an aero effect, so it gets a little difficult sometimes when you're grouped up like that. So I expect it to be pretty difficult to work through the field with the reverse grid. But yeah, looking forward to it. Should be pretty fun.
Well, best of luck to you, mate. All the best, and yeah, we'll hopefully speak to you after the feature.
Thank you very much.
Lots of work to do to fight his way back forward, that's to say the least. Last but not least, let's see if we can catch up with Anthony Giovanoni. Anthony, it was an interesting fight in the hunt for the podium spots, especially in the final stages as Jordan tried to hunt you down. Did you feel like you had the measure of him in the final couple of laps?
Yeah, I thought I had P3 secured, but he really turned it on in the last few laps, so I had to throw some defense in the final stages of that one, but I'm super proud of my P3.
And now we get ready for the invert. What did you learn from the first inverted race last time around?
I learned to make my moves early. I think that's how Jordan got caught up last week, so gonna go in with the same mentality.
Well, enjoy the next race. Best of luck, and hopefully we're speaking to you in 30 minutes' time.
Thank you.
Anthony Giovinone, our podium, wrapped up there with about 70 seconds left in our warm-up session. Our driver's getting one final opportunity to head out there and get some practice laps in. Interesting that our race winner there, Kevin, saying that he had a muscle spasm. Definitely something that I can attest to.
Yeah, I've suffered from the same thing, actually, and one of the RaceSport rounds last season, I had my left foot just completely went numb. I started getting cramp in my left foot and lost feeling in 3 of my toes. So that was interesting, trying to lap Spa with a numb foot, especially the braking foot. It's every single braking zone, obviously you have to mash the brake pedal, and it was just excruciating. And yeah, I had people running through the back of me in the middle sector. I was getting messages after the race saying, why were you so slow? And I was just like, I was going through it, absolutely going through it in that race. But yeah, it's one of the worst things that can happen is getting cramp or a muscle spasm or something. I've even had it in my back before as well. I've had like a muscle just ping on me, and it's horrible. It can take your breath away at some point as well.
Well, I was, for a second when you mentioned wrench, but I was assuming you meant in one of the in-person LAN events, but you're saying you had this at home.
Yeah, this was at a home event. Yeah, I just hit the brake pedal for T1, and on the coming up the Kemmel straight, I was sort of just doing my usual, like stretching my ankle, stretching my feet out a little bit, and I just moved it the wrong way, and yeah, felt a ping, my whole foot cramped up, and I was stuck with it for about 3 or 4 laps. It's one of the worst driving experiences I've ever had.
Makes me feel better. I was thinking that when I had the cramp, it was my rig being unoptimized. If you have it, and have had those sort of situations, makes me feel a lot better. Jackson Podis, inverted top 10, gets ready to lead us to green. John Willis alongside. They'll have to deal with the sight in their mirrors of Anthony Arroyo, Remy Podis, and then Nick Bruno and Connor Stroh. Start to get into those that were really in the fight for the podium spots. Jordan Heppel, Anthony Giovinone, Joshua Freund, Josh Connell, while Romario Jackson, a couple of issues for him, and 2 laps down in the heat race, albeit including a drive-through penalty for hitting the incident limit. Right, add 10 more minutes onto the clock for this main event. 30 minutes the full race, as once more we get ready for our full pace lap. 10 more minutes, Kevin, is that really much in terms of tyre wear for us to be talking about?
I mean, potentially. The track temperature has been creeping up throughout the course of this event. We're now looking at 40 degrees, so I think the first 10-15 minutes the tyres should feel okay, and then you might start seeing a bit of thermal degradation at the end, especially if people are sliding around, and we keep on seeing these sort of half spins that we're seeing in turns 4 and 5 and things like that. So yeah, the aim of the game is just stay in the draft and don't have any big snaps. Just try not to put any unneeded energy through the tyre. Just keep it on the straight and narrow, sit behind the guy in front, and then make your moves later on in the race.
So expecting some drivers to be aggressive. We heard from Giovinone. He did also point out that Heppel got a little bit stuck last week, so see if he's learned the lessons. Orange wheels on the left side for Jackson Podis. Darker black wheels on the right-hand side of the grid for John Willis, as they all share, as mentioned earlier, identical orange liveries. Kevin, what color were your wheels when you ran in the various series that you did?
I think in Pesk I had the chrome blue, I had the Apex blue, and I was a big fan of that year. I think it was 2022 I adopted that, or 21. And yeah, I just thought that looked so cool. It was either the chrome blue or it was just straight chrome. See,
now I firmly believe that colored wheels are okay. mainly as someone who grew up with Subaru, blue and gold, the gold wheels, the blue and yellow livery itself. There's a lot of people that have said no colored wheels, to which I'm going to say no. Put the kibosh on that one. This race likely to be closer to 20 laps in length. The other thing that I've just noticed is looks like it's a lot darker, so I'm wondering track temperature-wise what we're looking at now. It's still the same sort of northern wind that we're dealing with. 102 Fahrenheit, Kevin.
What does that mean?
It's a good question. It's the wrong units for you and me, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're looking at, I think it's 39 Celsius we're looking at. So it's come down a degree. It's just dropped to 38 now. So if the cloud stays around for long enough, you might see it drop back to mid-30s, which the drivers will be, the drivers will be happy about. It's less tire management for them.
Well, I said on an IndyCar iRacing Pro Series broadcasts that we should use the correct units, and boy, did someone in chat not take kindly to that. Interesting start here from Jackson Potus, who initially gaps the field and then has to check up and allow the remaining 10 to form up alongside, but we are underway for the feature race here in the HQ Racing Esports League, and we'll be 3 wide for 3rd position behind as John Willis sweeps through to take the lead. Jackson Potus now defends from Remy Potus as we work our way up into the heaviest of the braking zones and the best of the passing opportunities. Race winner earlier tonight, Josh Connell, still only in 9th position. As up towards the right-hander they go on the inside, Jackson Potus trying to hold on to 2nd. He'll block Remy off, but now Anthony Arroyo, great exit off the corner, on board with Connor Stroh as we get ready to hit the danger point for so many in race number 1.
Yeah, this is going to be a difficult braking zone here. They're going 2x2 on the way down the hill. It's a big send up the inside from Anthony Arroyo, and he's managed to get the car stopped. You can see the car's moving around a lot there. This corner is going to be one that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the feature race. It seems like everyone is struggling. And what's interesting as well is that Joshua Freund has held off Josh Connell back there in P9 as well. So providing that Josh can keep his nose clean and start carving his way through the field, there's potential for him to create separation as they're going 3 wide. Oh my goodness, these guys are brave. There's a bit of contact. There's a car around. Remy Potus, I think.
Remy Potus, but who loses that with him? Connor Stroh was involved in our fight at the front earlier, but now at the very tail end of the field. One driver who's been decisive with his moves so far, Anthony Giovannone, who is up now into 4th position. Connor Stroh's got a meatball. He'll head back to pit lane to fix up a damaged race car, and that will take him out of contention as the first lap officially now in the books. Joshua Freund on the inside of Nick Bruno as we climb the hill into turn 1. 28 minutes to go, big lockup in front and lots of momentum lost from Jackson Potus. Now, Freund slips through. Bruno's not sure which way to go. He'll go the long way up into turn 3.
In a lot of cases, turn 3, the outside line is actually better than the inside. You don't get that, you don't drive over that big crest on the exit quite as severely. If you're on the wider line, it's a little bit nicer. There's a bit of contact there. That was Joshua Freund closing the door. He's made a great jump through the field there, and as I mentioned earlier, he's managed to put a bunch of cars between himself and Josh Connell, so this is a good situation here for Joshua Freund. He's just got to try and keep his eyes forward, try and get in the slipstream of Giovannone and bridge that gap.
Oh, Jackson Potus, a little bit squirrely there as he almost ran into the back of Nick Bruno. Now waiting for Josh Connell to take advantage, but remember, low-powered machines, we're only talking about 160 horsepower. Connell very cognizant of wanting to avoid losing momentum, but now losing lots of time, and potentially the slipstream of those in front got to be very careful. Look how much gravel's being kicked up in this middle sector of the lap as Remy Potus was just tagged around, I think, by Connor Stroh, who then gets the worst of it in the aftermath.
Yeah, I'm interested to see from this angle. It looks like he closed the door just a little bit there. I think he was hoping he would get clear by the apex. Yeah, let's have a look from above. Yeah, he's sort of cut across just a little bit there. He's not left a huge amount of space, so that's really unfortunate. Yeah, it's just one of those racing incidents. Everyone was so just on top of each other. It's so common in these F4 cars for everyone just to get on top of each other all the time. There's hardly any breathing space through that middle sector when you're all just going 2x2 through every single corner, and in some cases I even saw 3 wide as well.
Which in that middle sector, please no. Move for 7th might be on. Josh Connell gets the door slammed closed on him. Jackson Poda's already lost out to Jordan Heppel, who is breaking away, and Josh Connell has been unable to make his way forward in the same way as some of those around him. Freund and Giovanone are both up 5 positions respectively, but Jordan Heppel, he's only up 1. Josh Connell, he's only up 2. Still some work to do with only 5 seconds covering the top 7.
Yeah, this is getting pretty critical now for Josh. He's the only thing that's working in his favour is the fact that no one is fully out of draft right now. Everyone's sort of just about, you can get a sniff of draft no matter where you are, but he has got to start moving because Joshua Freund has made progress through the field. He's put 3 seconds into Josh in only a handful of laps, so yeah, it is possible here for him to still get a P2 or even a win out of this, but he cannot afford to get stuck behind anyone or lose any more time battling wheel to wheel. He cannot lose the slipstream. He's got to just gradually and systematically pick his way through the field one by one, and they've got to be quick, efficient moves as well.
Anthony Arroyo is sat in the draft of Giovanone. That could be something that stops them from closing as quickly on John Willis up front, who now only has 1.2 seconds of a buffer to the chasing Giovanone, hoping for a double podium. I think we're seeing Arroyo go defensive from big send around the outside from Joshua Freund, but I did mention that you could run your competitor slightly out wide onto the sausage curb. Arroyo a bit too kind for that, giving plenty of room to Freund, who's now left right along the white line as they drop down onto the curb into the braking zone at turn 4. Very, very uncomfortable initially was Arroyo on the brakes, but gets through nice and smoothly. Still side by side, losing track of Giovanone in front of them through all of this. Nick Bruno, Jordan Heppel is helping Josh Connell out, who's finally made his way past Jackson Podas and now has 2.3 seconds to close on this group.
Yeah, it's going to be in Joshua Freund's best interest here to try and keep the average lap time as quick as possible for this group of 4. If he's the one out front, he's going to want to hope that these guys are just going to sit behind for a few laps. He can latch on to Anthony Giovanone because that is his golden ticket for getting a win. As we see Nick Bruno making a dive up the inside. Anthony Arroyo's done a great job to hold that round the outside, and he should clear him on the exit here. And that's a little bit of contact there. That's going to potentially damage a front wing end plate. This is perfect for Joshua Freund though. He's gotten a bit of breathing room now, so this is absolutely perfect for him.
If iRacing simulated punctures, that's the kind of thing where you get worried about that. Oh, big spin. Oh, big spin. Jordan Heppel just overcommitted through turn 1, and that's lost him 4 positions down to 8th. Promoted Josh Connell, bridged the gap up to Nick Bruno as well, crucially for him. But it's 3 at play for the lead. John Willis has been caught by Giovanone and Freund. Here's the replay from up above. Never making that corner.
That's a carbon copy of what happened to him in the heats, I'm pretty sure. It was Jordan Heppel that went deep in turn 1 in the first heat, but he didn't spin it at that specific case. But yeah, he has now, so his night's gone from bad to worse there for Jordan Heppel. But looking back towards the front, Giovanone is caught right up to John Willis now, who was sitting pretty for a bit there, but it did not take long for Giovanone to carve his way through the field. He said at the end of the heat races that was his goal, just to make his moves early. He's always made a bad move there. Big moment on that exit curb. But thankfully for him, he's still well within slipstream, and these front 3 have got to work together to not bring that group with Anthony Arroyo and Co back into it.
Now the wind is shifting to a more northeasterly direction, and it's also intensifying, so that's a crosswind through turn 6 and 7, so that could increasingly become treacherous as we head deeper into this race. That's the forecast over the next 20 or so minutes. Josh Connell, race 1 winner on the night. Fastest lap as he closes in on the draft of Nick Bruno and Anthony Arroyo, but we sit with Josh Freund in what is the fight for second place right now, with John Willis having a bit of separation. Does 7 pop to the inside and try and charge his way to the lead? Yes, he will. Behind, they are wheel to wheel as well. Nick Bruno, Anthony Arroyo. Is this going to be the chance for Connell to get underneath and get a good run? Not quite. Good racing going on with about 10 minutes complete.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they manage this. As you mentioned, the wind is starting to pick up a little bit again, and providing it's not over about 10 miles an hour, it's manageable. as soon as you get 10, 15 miles an hour winds, that's really when the handling of the car starts to become more unpredictable. So these guys were hoping that the wind stays as calm as it was in the heat races. Looking up the inside there, although this is a high-speed corner with the camber obviously dropping itself downhill, it is actually quite a good overtaking opportunity. It's such a short braking zone, but the track is so wide that you can have a proper lunge up the inside. And yeah, we can see here they're moving left and right, looking for a gap into that second to last corner. This is brave from Nick Bruno, sticking his nose up the inside there, trying to get a move on Anthony Arroyo, and this for Josh Connell is worst case scenario. These two in front are battling, losing time. He's going to be over 4 seconds behind Giovanoni after he gets clear of these two. So I think his hopes of a win have just slipped away.
And worst case actually is now, even if he gets through, he's going to be feeding draft to those behind. You'll get one, he won't get both. Arroyo leads on the run out of turn 1, but they are now 5 seconds in arrears to new race leader Joshua Freund, who got past John Willis into turn 1. Now, can Giovanoni follow? He needs to get a good exit here. Oh, and great job. Sweeps underneath us. John Willis just bobbles initially off the corner, delayed in putting the power down. Still 3 at the front, yes. We'll see how long John Willis is going to be able to hold in drafting range as, oh, Giovanoni instantly back on the attack, down into turn 4. Ball place a look. Freund sweeps the speed and holds on to the lead.
Yeah, I was about to say I've been really impressed with Giovanoni in this feature race. He carved his way through the field as, oh, Anthony Arroyo's gone round. And I'm seeing Josh Connell's losing time. John Willis has gone round now as well. It's all kicked off just in the span of 5 seconds there. Josh Connell is 8.6 seconds off the lead now.
I'm going to assume that Connell and Bruno both had something happen together. Bruno getting the worst of it, yes, but Connell losing a significant amount of time in wheel to wheel. Connell on the outside. Oh yeah, he can't really do much. Path blocked in front of him. And this is where, go back a couple of years on iRacing, as it's Anthony Arroyo, the one that spins in front, actually, as we already saw. For Josh Connell, go back a couple of years on iRacing, Kevin, the gravel was actually a lot less impactful, and you could go through it with a lot less speed being scrubbed off. Josh Connell, unfortunately, a victim of the updated gravel model on iRacing.
Yeah, the gravel nowadays is pretty brutal. It caught me by surprise for sure when I came back to iRacing, was just how sticky it actually is. It's definitely closer to how it is in real life, and you can see there John Willis's mistake at turn 5. He'll be absolutely gutted with that. He had an easy job just to sit P3 and get pulled along by the two leaders. Was looking, yeah, to have a nice relaxing end to the race, pick up some big points for himself. But yeah, now he's going to drop back into the clutches of Jackson Podes. And yeah, really unfortunate for Josh Connell as well. He just had absolutely nowhere to go there. He had to take the gravel, otherwise he was going to lose his front wing, and it's just left him with a maximum of P3 now. But I mean, to be fair, as bad as that situation was, with John Willis' spin, at least the podium is still on, so it's yeah, he can minimise the damage, shall we say.
And gifted fourth as Otis slips wide. The first of the left-handers on board with the Canadian Jordan Heppel as we begin our run back down to that penultimate corner. With just 17 minutes left to go. Next week we're off to a track where, of course, draft is going to be equally important, but at the Hungaroring, a lot more technical and tight corners with heavy braking zones surely will mean some better passing opportunities than some of what we're seeing so far, with drivers really having to force their move. Jordan Heppel, will he force this up into turn 1? It's going to take some bravery. He knows he's got the draft of the car in front, and oh, Jackson Podes wasn't quite ready for that one. And now watch as Nick Bruno gets the draft in the slingshot up to turn 3 as well.
He's learned his lesson from the first 2 times he's gone off at T1. That was a decisive and very well executed move there from Jordan Heppel. As you mentioned there, Nick Bruno's got the move done, and then an instant send back there from Jackson Podes, but he's locked the inside front. That's not going to do him any favours. As yeah, he's turned his right front into a 50p piece there.
In front, fight for third. This is where Josh Connell is looking to try and make his move and break through and break away. He's broken through. Now break away. John Willis has shown a ability to stay in that draft, just needs to avoid. Oh, he really commits and once again almost loses the rear end in through turn 5. Jordan Heppel slips through 2, and that's going to promote 2 of our podium contenders from race 1 back up into a fight for the podium. It's not done between the 2 of them yet.
It is not. It's John Willis's day is just going from bad to worse there. He's almost dropped it in the same corner again. He decided to show the nose, try and scare Josh Connell offline, and in turn, I think, scared himself off the apex. So, yeah, John just needs to settle down now, try and settle into a rhythm for the last 15 minutes and just see if he can hold on to a top 5 as, yeah, these front 2. It's going to be an interesting end to this race. Joshua Freund has done a great job coming from P9 on the grid to take the lead, and Giovanoni has executed his pre-race plan to perfection. But these 2 just need to make sure now they don't wipe each other out. They've got 10 seconds out back to Josh Connell, so no worries out back. They can scrap as much as they like. Chances are he's not going to get back to them, but they just need to avoid damage and contact. There's still 15 minutes left. They don't need to pinch each other too tight. Just have your fun. At some point, one of them is going to have to just sit behind the other one and wait for the last couple of laps.
And at the end of the day, as much as they're fighting right now, this is not necessarily decisive. As long as they don't take each other out, as Freund tries to get back alongside and pop to the outside, they have enough time remaining, and the draft is going to keep them somewhat close together. Just have to avoid moments like Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. In fact, just Max Verstappen and anyone up at turn 3, basically, with the various bits of contact that have been seen there. Not a normal place to see contact here as they sweep up to the final corners. Out of turn 8, that was a little bit closer than I think Giovanoni had initially thought, and so he's forced to look for the move. Both of them stay within track limits, which is great to see. Respectful racing on each side, and as much as Giovanoni slips a bit wide there, Freund saw it coming, back into line. 14 minutes left to go. These 2 looking like they're ready for a bit of a ding-dong battle.
They'll definitely put on a bit of an exhibition here, that's for sure. Doing the entire lap side by side. It looks as if the 2 of them have agreed to do a side by side challenge for the previous lap. That was some great racing, as you mentioned, keeping it within track limits. As we see a move in turn 1, that was round the outside. I can't see who that was.
That's
Josh Connell.
3rd. Yeah.
Yeah, he managed to go round the outside of Jordan Heppel. So these 2 are having a scrap now. So that takes even more pressure off Anthony and Josh. If they want to do another few laps fully side by side, they've got the gap to do it. It's back out over 9 seconds now.
If you're those 2 on the bottom, yes, you're fighting for points, but probably are aware that if those 2 continue to do the side-by-side challenge, it costs them about 0.6 of a second. Giovanoni was slower than Connell on that last lap. He was another, though, 0.7, 0.8 slower than Jordan Heppel. So the side-by-side fighting, as much as it's great to watch, the unfortunate thing about it from a driver's perspective, which is why so often, Kevin, in top-level sim racing, we see drivers not looking for moves and instead just running behind and bump drafting where appropriate. Fighting, well, it unfortunately costs you time.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You've got to pick and choose your battles, especially the higher you go, the harder it is to execute an overtake. So you don't want to just go for every single gap that you see, because, as you mentioned, the chances you get that move done in one braking zone is fairly low. So you know there's going to be a few corners side by side. So we can see Freund looking up the inside. Giovanoni smartly just gives him the line, drags that brake just a little bit more on the entry, just to let Joshua Freund clear him and tuck himself back into the slipstream. But it's interesting that both of them seem quite comfortable going side by side with still so long left in the race. They're not, obviously one's not going to be able to break away from the other one in this scenario, so they're putting themselves through a lot of extra stress for not much of a reason right now.
It's not quite swap drafting Indy style either, is it? So you're right, they're running close, especially when they're squeezing each other maybe on the entries into various complexes, but clearly with the confidence to be able to do so. Not the best exit for Giovanoni down at turn 4, and once again they'll run side by side, and this is starting to cost them time. There is no question about that. It's now 7.7 back to 3rd, just 11.5 minutes remaining. The question is that time really sufficient for the gap to close and then for a fight to ensue? If they're going to continue fighting like this, definitely. No question about that. 1 second lost in the middle sector alone.
Yeah, these guys need to sort this out and fairly quickly. It just needs one of them just to decide just to chill out for a couple of laps. You know, there's still 11 minutes left to go. These guys, and it's a couple of times now we've seen Giovanoni running wide out the last corner, so track limits will be racking up the tyres at this point. Will be starting to overheat, and they're just putting themselves through massive amounts of potential risk. Again, we see Joshua Freund and Giovanoni going side by side, and that time Freund lets him go and then immediately comes straight back at him. So yeah, they've got to be careful. I mean, we saw in the first race they were doing mid to high 134s. Last lap was a 136.1 for Joshua Freund. So these guys are, yeah, close to 2 seconds a lap off what they were doing in the heat just from going side by side so much. And yeah, at some point it's all going to come undone, and they need to really make sure they don't bring Josh Connell back into this.
They lost about 3 seconds to Connell last lap. The only hope is that Connell and Heppel side by side into turn 3 in their own little fight. So we're just 10 minutes remaining on the clock, 20 minutes about to be complete. Some drivers have decided to pull the plug and start to push a little bit more on the outside. Josh Freund is going to once more cut back underneath. Watch the rear end of Giovanoni. It was sawing one way then the other as it squirmed underneath and tried to just settle and put the power down. Jordan Heppel jumps in front of Josh Connell, bottom of your screen. That increases the gap between the top two and the pair chasing them down as well. Pair of really interesting battles that could end up having some championship implications down the line.
Yeah, I think if I'm Josh Connell, I'd be getting quite frustrated at this point with Jordan Heppel. Obviously, he's aware that the front two are fighting. He'll be seeing that coming down on his relative, that gap. And there's nothing more frustrating than when you're trying to just chip away at a gap and you can see the two ahead of you are battling. There's nothing worse than then having someone behind just sending one on you and you lose all the progress that you've just made. So I think Josh might be getting a little bit frustrated there because there was an opportunity for him to potentially get back to these front two, but as for now they have calmed down a little bit. Thankfully they're now back into the mid 134s, which is a bit more like it. It's unlikely that Josh is going to be able to bridge that gap. If they can keep it mid to low 134s, they'll be alright. So we can see Josh Connell and Jordan Heppel going side by side once again. I think the win's gone now for Josh.
Yeah, I think this is maybe them both conceding as well. It'd be easy for Josh to sit behind Jordan if he thinks Jordan's got the pace to close in his own right. But for the time being, as Freund pops back to the outside, they pass Romario Jackson, who's once again got a black flag for hitting that incident limit. I do think track limits at a place like this can be really easy just to fall afoul of by virtue of pushing too hard. Right on cue, John Willis gets that P right next to his name with 22 minutes now complete in this race. They're still side by side below as Connell gets back in front, but all the time that Giovanoni and Freund might be giving up fighting amongst themselves, those two behind starting to give it up as well. 8 minutes left means, I think, 6 laps left to go.
Yeah, you can see the rear of Giovanoni's car moving around a lot. They've been doing a lot of battling in this race, sliding around a lot, and at this point it's going to be really easy to start picking up track limits when you least expect it. These tyres are going to start getting a bit too hot now. The track temp has sort of stayed around 39 Celsius or 102 Fahrenheit, so the track temp has stayed fairly consistent. But yeah, with all the battling they've done, as Freund closes right up in the braking zone, I think you can tell he got a bit of a fright there. He stomped on the anchors to run through the back of Giovanoni. But yeah, these guys need to really be careful as Connell goes up the inside again into the hairpin. So yeah, if you're over, would you say the incident limit was 15?
15, yes.
Yeah, so if they're over 10 at this point, you're going to be clenched.
And this is where, you know, often we talk about using incident points strategically, rationing them out so you have them to play with at the end of the race. If you had only picked up 1 or 2 in the start, well, got a couple of car contacts that you could still afford to have, which is always a slightly different perspective on how racing often works in the real world. 3/10 between these two, and at this point you'd think surely no question as to whether they have much to worry about behind. I do think, by the way, it will actually only be 4 laps to go this time by, because the pace of the race dropped off slightly when we went side by side for those couple of laps, and we're now estimated at just 19 instead of 20 laps. Josh Freund pulled out of draft willingly, trying not to have as much momentum into the entry of turn 1. He wants it on the exit of turn 1 instead.
I think honestly the best thing for Josh Freund right now is just to sit behind Giovanoni until the last lap and then decide which corner is going to be the most decisive for him to make a move and not be attacked back. So what he can probably do is, if he hasn't been doing it already, is use these next couple of laps as a bit of a tester. So try and make a move into turn 3, see if you can hold him off until the end of the lap. If not, then try and make a move at turn 4 and then see if Giovanoni can come back at you. Then that will give you an idea for the last lap where you need to make your attack and move, and what to expect until you get back to the line as well, if you need to go defensive into the second last corner, or whether you can keep the gap big enough to not have to worry.
I guess something else that maybe they are considering is, well, where are the other drivers more vulnerable? And that's where some of this fighting is helpful. Although, go back to what you were saying about tyres, the one thing about iRacing is their tyre model has always been very thermally dependent. The more you heat them up, the harder it is to manage and contain. And seemingly, Josh Connell and Jordan Heppel have single-filed it out enough that if these two do elect to fight a bit more, it's actually still not completely settled. Bit of a clip of the inside anti-cut curb, shoots Giovanoni wide and into the grass. Doesn't lose any momentum though, as he plants his foot to the floor and pops to the inside with now under 5 minutes remaining. Some of these moves might end up being decisive. My timing screens also jumps back up to 20 laps estimated, so we may be very, very close to needing an additional lap versus fighting side by side and taking that extra lap out of play.
Yeah, at this point here, the two of them are just going to be sizing each other up now, I think, just trying to see, as you mentioned previously, where the other driver is weak. Is there a specific corner that they can capitalise on to try and get that move done and make it stick? As I believe we have just lost Nick Bruno from the race. I'm not sure if he's had a technical issue or if he's had an off. Hopefully find out what happened to him shortly. But yeah, these front two... Oh, he's been shoved wide. That's Joshua Freund. He's got a penalty.
And that's the drive-through, Kevin. You were just saying, if you have the ability to fight, Josh Freund didn't. Pushed a bit too hard in the early stages and now is going to drop outside the front top 5.
Yeah, that's just poor race management, I'm afraid. To know you're that close on incidents and still willingly going side by side as often as they were. As we see what happened to Nick Bruno, he's just dropped it. I think that's out the last corner. He's just dropped a tyre off the curb there. We saw it happen early in the race to someone else. It's so easy to do, as Joshua Freund elects to serve his drive-through immediately, try and minimise the damage and give himself some time at the end of the race to try and maybe make a position or two back. But yeah, that's just poor race management. You're out front by 9 seconds. You don't need to be taking these types of risks, and he's paid the price.
End up staying in the top 5 actually, because the gap back to Anthony Arroyo was larger than expected. In fact, he'll slot in front of Remy Podi's. You only lose 16.2 seconds here with the time cone to cone. It's a relatively high pit lane limit in terms of speed and relatively short distance as well. That now means that Jordan Heppel, Josh Connell fighting for 2nd and 3rd. And Jordan Heppel, the Canadian, has gone in front of our championship leader coming into the night.
I tell you what's really interesting is we were talking at the start of the race about how quickly Joshua Freund carved through the field and put a bunch of cars between himself and Josh Connell. And a bit of a mistake there from Josh. But as the race has kind of gone on, everything has just fell into Josh Connell's lap here. He's now staring at a potential P2. And it's going to minimise any kind of points lost to Giovanoni out front. Of course, these two were our championship leaders coming into this round. But with that mistake, Josh hasn't got very long to try and get back to Jordan Heppel. That was an opportune time to run deep.
I'm going back to what you were saying on race management. Maybe Josh doesn't have the ability to fight. Maybe that's why he's sitting a bit further back now. Could also be pace related. I think one thing that we are guaranteed is we will get 2 laps to go at the line, although Anthony Giovanoni has just gotten a penalty of his own And if there's anyone who can be accused of poor race management, that's the driver in control of the race by themselves. Although I think this was a black flag for contact potentially, because it's come down from in-sim.
Well, that is how you throw away a race right there. Both of those front two were scrapping so hard in the middle of the race. And Josh O'Connell is now looking, he's got the perfect opportunity here for a double victory. Despite being 7 seconds off the lead, 9 seconds off at one point, he's literally staring at a potential of a second race win of the night, which is, yeah, that just proves the importance of race management, not taking too many off tracks, not exposing yourself to potential risks. As you can see, he's made another mistake in that downhill right once again.
It's not an easy
struggling
complex.
there. No, it is not.
In this car, is it? No, it's... I'm just going to quickly check the wind as well, because that's not quite picked up in terms of speed too much. It's now up to 12 kilometers an hour. I think at one point it was at 9, so it's really not too much of a shift. I think it's more the direction change that's probably caught a few out. Giovannone is going to be in this lap. I think that should still mean that we get the white flag, although everybody is going to technically cross by the time the clock has struck 0. One of the wilder things I've seen in my time on iRacing, and now suddenly Jordan Heppel has a chance for a first race victory of the season. Now with Anthony Giovannone emerging alongside, I think, of Josh Freund, they may still have a fight for third. No, Freund's gone and just in front on this final lap of the race.
That would be quite poetic, wouldn't it, if Giovannone came out the pits and the two of them just started going side by side again after what we saw for the previously in this race. But yeah, as you said, final lap now for Josh Connell. It's not got very long, and I've just noticed Giovannone's still got that penalty. I don't think he served it correctly. I'm assuming he must think he's got to drive through it. It must have been some kind of stop and go, because that penalty is not cleared. So Giovannone's night is about to go from bad to worse.
See what that means in our post-race official results. Always possibility for things to get changed. Conestro in front of Anthony Arroyo, but just 3 corners left as they switch out of the middle sector here. Our European swing to open up the HQ Racing Esports League takes us to the Styrian Mountains, where at altitude engines may be starved slightly of air, but our drivers still making plenty of good decisions. Jordan Heppel and Josh Connell, patient at the start. They end the main event on top, 7 seconds clear of everyone behind, as Heppel grabs the race victory. The majority of the points in the main event. Good effort from them. We'll see what it means for Freund and Giovannone in our post-race points.
Well, it could be worse for Joshua Freund. A big missed opportunity there for sure, but at least he still comes away with a podium. But yeah, Josh Connell's got to be happy with that. The two guys out front both throwing the race away, and he picks up a win and a P2 on the night. And of course Jordan Heppel picking up the main race victory as well. It was a really well managed race from him, despite, let's not forget, he had that spin at T1 earlier in the race. He still managed to come back and win the race. So yeah, super impressive from him. Congrats to him.
Let's grab a look at the final car on track for Mario Jackson, heading down to pit lane. Difficult day for him. Not really finding the balance of this setup. Jordan Heppel, our race winner, 7/10 clear of Josh Connell at the line, with Josh Freund just in front of Anthony Giovannone, Remy Podis, Conestro, Anthony Arroyo, and then John Willis, Jackson Podis, Romario Jackson, and Nick Bruno are top 11 on the day. Let's quickly catch up with our race winner, Jordan Heppel, who had, yes, a couple of spins, but able to put them behind him. Jordan, I know turn 1 had potentially your number, but you were able to put that behind you and come out on top in what was a tumultuous night in many ways.
Yeah, super excited. It was a fun race, but quite eventful, like you said. I think I, at one point, probably occupied just about every spot on the grid. And so quite happy to get the win, and hopefully there's a few more to come throughout the season.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how you fought back there. What was your mindset after that spin? Were you just focused on trying to pick through people once again? Obviously, we know that the slipstream round here is quite effective, so was it just a case of trying to just get rid of that incident from your head and just knuckle down and carve your way back through the field?
Yeah, exactly. I definitely felt like I had a good amount of pace, and while cars are battling on track, it can be quite easy to start gaining time since there's a few long straights, so you can just have a couple more kilometers an hour speed at the apex, you'll slowly gain on those cars. So I just kind of thought, all right, I've got the pace, I just need to keep my head down and see what happens, and was able to just keep it clean from there on out.
Well, Jordan, congratulations on the victory. We'll see you next time out when we make our way to the Hungaroring.
Thank you, looking forward to it.
Eventful night for many, including for Josh Connell, winner in the first race of the night, second place in the main event. He's standing by with Kevin Ellis Jr.
Well, Josh, at the start of the race, we were talking about you struggling to sort of get through the field. We saw Joshua Freund carve his way through and sort of leave you behind there, but as the race went on, everything just seemed to fall your way.
Yeah, it was a good race. I tried to play it patient in the beginning of the race, try to stay clean. I knew I had 30 minutes to get things done. But as soon as I had a couple scary moments as well, as soon as I started getting up towards third place, I knew I had to focus on trying to get up to the leaders. I let Jordan go at one point because me and him had very similar pace, but I was making mistakes. But then it ended up coming to us through penalties and black flags, so it ended up working out in the long run.
Yeah, we saw you having a couple of issues there at turn 4, the downhill hairpin. What was the general handling of the car like? Because we saw a lot of people struggling there with the back end stepping out.
Yeah, the car is good, honestly. I actually really like the setups. I think it's more just trying to find the right brake bias for this track. I think I needed to focus more on lowering the brake bias for those corners specifically, and I wasn't doing that this race in order to try to like stay consistent and not like mess around too much and make mistakes. But unfortunately, keeping it at the same brake bias the whole race led to more mistakes than I thought it would.
Well, despite the mistakes, it was still a great night. You got yourself a win and a P2, so congrats on that. Very well driven.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And last but not least, let's catch up with Joshua Freund, third in the main event. And Joshua, an interesting fight for you for the race lead. Unfortunately, the contact saw you head to pit lane for the penalty for the incident limits. However, some great fighting until that moment, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony put on a good fight, and yeah, it was fun switching positions with him. I was a little worried that the people behind would catch up, but we were maintaining a good gap, and it was fun to fight him.
Yeah, we were wondering the same thing, how concerned you would be about those closing behind. There's one lap in particular where I think you went side by side for almost the entire lap, but also lost about 3 seconds. Was there ever a point at which you were thinking, let me sit back a little bit and wait until the final couple of laps to try and attack once again?
Definitely that crossed my mind, and I did sit behind Anthony for an entire lap and just tried to see what he was doing. And I kind of planned an attack, but there were just a few turns where the braking zones, he was slowing down way sooner than I would have, and I felt that I was losing too much time from that. So I went to attack again, and unfortunately, that's when we ended up making contact. So,
well, still a fun fight, still some good points, and now we head to the Hungaroring with still some great fighting left to go. Congrats on third place, Joshua, and can't wait to see you next time out.
All right, thank you so much.
And like mentioned, our next trip takes us to another Grand Prix venue, a relatively tight and twisty track. Draft will still be king, but a couple more heavy braking zones at the Hungaroring, Kevin, for our drivers to take advantage of.
Yeah, something I'm going to be focusing on a lot at Hungaroring is the track surface. It's got very little grip from the tarmac. It doesn't provide a huge amount of adhesion for the tyres, so yeah, mechanically they'll be struggling a bit more than they were here, and of course I believe Hungaroring's at quite high altitude as well, so we might see a repeat again of where the aerodynamics aren't at, sort of working at full tilt, so to say. So yeah, turn 1 will be the hot spot for sure, and that middle sector is going to be really interesting to see how those guys manage it. Of course, there's not much dirty air either, so they should be able to follow quite closely. And yeah, I fully expect the battling to be good, but tyre management is going to be the name of the game next week.
It's another track where track limits might also be somewhat of a balancing factor for our drivers. Unfortunately, I won't be around. I'll be too busy at an NBA game with Ryan Marine and Peter Mackay as we make our way to Sebring for the 12 hours as part of the IMSA radio broadcast team. But what fun to be along for the second round of the HQ Racing Esports League. Kevin Ellis Jr. alongside our producer Hugo Luis and myself, our Junior Kanki Party. Some great racing in the Styrian Mountains. And now our drivers head off to the Hungaroring, hungry for some more action in round 3 of the championship.